Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, we're just going to do a brief video here today, just talk about the release of Linux Mint 19. As of just a couple hours ago, this was released. So they have released all of the editions, so you can jump on over to their website. There is the XFCE, the Mate, and the Cinnamon. These guys here were all released. Let's have a look at the release notes. So they have officially released these. I know Joe Collins just did a video. I think he published it today. I think he said he did it, maybe did it last night. He says, this isn't out yet. Well, it's now out. So let's see what we have. So this is a LTS, of course, supported until 2023. So that gives us about 5 years. Of course, the older versions, if you're still on 18 branch, that's supported security updates until 2021. So you don't have to jump to this right away. New version contains many improvements. So let's have a look at that list over here. And of course, we talked about some of these in my beta release video. Time shift is now kind of integrated. Before you run updates, it prompts you to get started with time shift so that you can actually kind of make system restore points. Now, one person had indicated that it may not work as well as it could, and some people say make sure you know how to use it from a terminal command prompt if it totally messes everything up, because you might have to do that. The update manager does not prompt you which security level. Instead, it just uses time shift to roll back anything that is that may not be good. But you still have the option to go in there and unselect anything that you'd like, or add anything to an ignored list that you like. Those are all preserved. There is an auto grade option in the preferences where you can just turn it on, kind of like Windows just does its own thing, and it'll make its own backups, do its own installs, things like that. For those that like it, you got it, but it's not like Windows where you have to have it. So I don't remember seeing that. That might be new. There is a new welcome screen. There are some changes to the software manager as well. Mostly they just added it's essentially the same software manager as in 18.3. It's just they've added some transition animations to it, made it look a little bit better. And they have Cinnamon 3.8, and let's see, adjustable sound volumes, file search. So you can read through the rest of that link there. As far as this guy, the system requirements, 1 gig of RAM is the minimum, 2 gig for comfortable usage. Cinnamon is not necessarily a light desktop, so just keep that in mind. If you're looking for a Linux distro and for an older machine or one without a lot of system hardware, you don't want to use Cinnamon. You might want to use Linux Mint XFCE for that instead, because it is the lightest. Mate would be in the middle. 15 gigs of disk space. 20 gigs recommended, and at least 1024. Of course, they'll tell you here that if you do have low resolutions and a window goes out of the screen, you can hold the Alt key to drag windows around. So if you can't get to the top of the window, you can always just grab your Alt key and drag stuff around, which you didn't see me dragging that around because of the way I had the VirtualBox set up, or the recording software set up, but it was moving, I promise. In fact, you saw the little hand. You can see the little hand there on the mouse cursor. Okay. So they have a 64-bit BIOS or UEFI, 32-bit only with BIOS. 64 is recommended for all your modern computers, but you can still run this on older systems. They do have the upgrade path. Let's see. The announcement will be made shortly, so you will be able to upgrade from 18.3 into this. And that is coming along the line here shortly. If you are running the beta system, perform the snapshot and then use the update manager to run it. I'm looking at these commands. They're having you remove the Microsoft font installers. I'm not sure why. Okay, so I guess they're just kind of changing how the Microsoft font installers are going. And then you can see the rest of that there. And then a variety of download links. Now, one of the biggest challenges right now is that, and this usually happens when a new version of Linux Mint comes out, is that their Linux Mint servers seem to be down. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Let me go to my desktop view. All right, so here is on the desktop view. If I kind of come over here and go to software sources, And this is on the main computer that I'm recording this on. So if you come over here and just kind of double click in these so I can change my sources, what it's going to do is it's going to probe the different servers. What we've been finding all day is Linux Mint is unreachable. So if you are looking to do this particularly for a production machine, give it a couple days for this to come back online. My guess is it's unreachable because the unfortunate thing is that when you are installing it, it still has to hit these servers. And so I actually had to try to install this on my VirtualBox twice because it just wouldn't go. It looks like more servers are online than I had earlier. But still, there's some main servers that are kind of unreachable right now. And I suspect that this is because there's so many people downloading it that it's kind of timing out their server. That's what my guess is. So we're kind of getting that response. Looking at some of the bug reports down here, this guy, he discovered a major Nemo bug. Too late to submit into the beta, but if you delete a subdirectory on the server which has files in them, Nemo acts as though the subdirectory had been deleted, removes it from the display window. But if you go out of the parent directory, contain the subdirectory, go back in, it reappears again. Only way to delete it is to delete all the files in it first before attempting to delete the subdirectory. Okay, and I personally have commented on this before. I thought that the more recent updates to Nemo have actually started to make Nemo worse. And I'm going to be looking at that closely, and I'm going to be playing around with this a little bit more. There is another issue that I have a comment on there, and that's that if you go to my website at Switch to Linux, you can actually grab a hosts file here under your privacy resources. There's a hosts file. There are some Ubuntu 18.04 based distros that this does not work with. Linux Mint is one of them. I don't know why. Somebody who did some testing of it has said that Linux Lite, also based on Ubuntu 18.04, doesn't have the problem. But I have tested it myself in a VirtualBox, and if you run this my host file script on Linux Mint 19, it will break your internet connections. So if you are using Linux Mint and you are upgrading to 19 and you are using my host file script to block advertisers and stuff, you want to take my host file script out of there for now. And I am trying to narrow down what the problem is. I don't have a ton of time for it. It certainly is something that came down in Ubuntu. I have heard that Ubuntu 18.04 in general, it doesn't work with it, and it's not a misconfiguration. There is something in that script that is breaking it, and it is crazy weird, and it is a little disconcerting. Now, the other thing you can do if you're running the script is you can actually go in there and batch replace everything with, instead of 127.0.0.1, which is the best way to run a host script, if you convert all those to 0.0.0.0, it will work and it will block things out. The problem is that 0.0.0.0.0 means a slightly different thing than 127.0.0.1. And if you're using a web server on your computer or any other type of weird server on your system, that's going to send those domain requests to that server system that you're using. And so if you're just using it as only a desktop with no servers, you can still use my host script. Just go through, do a, just in the text editor, Control H will do a find and replace. Replace all the 127.0.0.1 with 0.0.0.0, re-upload the file, and it will work. So, and I don't know why that is. It's goofy, it's weird, but it is. We are aware of that. Let's see, I've not found any upgrade notice, so I've tried, okay, let's see. Okay, so here we are in the login screen, and we just got to get logged in here. All right, so it does start me out without being full screen. It actually was working just fine with full screen earlier today, so that's one of the weird things running this in a VirtualBox, is it does seem to be doing weird things in the with the screen. It doesn't give you the same consistent screen size, but that's easy enough to change. Okay, so now we are loaded into our view here, and I'm going to go ahead and move me down there. So we can see that we have out of the box, we have our desktop icon and our home icon. This is that block script that I was talking about. So let me show you how to fix this. If you are using this script, which blocks, it blocks all the bad stuff on the internet. It blocks session replay cookies, Bitcoin miners. Actually, I have a better one which blocks more Bitcoin miners than that. Just lots of different stuff it blocks. So right now it's at 127.0.0.1. To replace this, I'm going to hold Control push H, do a search for 127.0.0.1. Replace that with 0.0.0.0. Replace all. Give that a second, and that's going to go through, and the document's going to replace everything. If you paste this into your host file, this will work, but keeping it as it was will break your internet connections. Totally weird bug. It seems to be something backported in with 1804. So just be aware of that. As far as everything else, we do have a nice new icon pack. These are not my favorite type of icons. They're certainly way better than the Linux Mint icons have been in the past. I really didn't like what they've shipped with in the past, but still, I'd probably change them to something else for my daily driver. We do have some of the latest versions of applications in. I think this is still 2.8. Okay, I didn't know that was still 2.8. I thought it was 2.10. If you do want 2.10, though, you can actually grab it from the software store because there is a flat pack available. And that's actually what I'd recommend is going forward, because GIMP 2.10 is way better than it was. Let's see. I'm probably missing it. It's in here somewhere. Problem is there's too many GIMPs. Okay, this one here. So it's the one that says GNU Image Manipulator Program. This is the 2.10 version from the Flatpak. So we're going to go ahead and install this. And you'll actually still have both versions. You can uninstall the old one if you want. So there's that. The Libre, I should be right. This should be 6. So LibreOffice 6. This is GIMP 2.10 and LibreOffice 6 are really the only things that I would want from the new Mint specifically. Because right now I'm working on developing a course on using free software to do the interior book design. And with that being said, you can actually get the PPAs to get LibreOffice 6, and you can download the flat pack of GIMP. So that's good. Everything here should be working out of the box. So we'll have our synonyms, we'll have our autocorrect options enabled on this. So let's go ahead and not save that. This will continue to take a few minutes to install. As far as other software, we do have all the basic utilities that have always come with Linux Mint. We have Redshift in here now. I don't remember this being installed by default, but it might be something I've uninstalled because it's an application I don't use. This is just going to shift your colors for like night screen. You know, the same thing that Apple's like, we have added this dark mode and this shifty mode. Ooh, congratulations. We've had it for a while, but it is pre-installed now, and I'm not sure it ever really was in the past. Graphics, there's the new GIMP is in there. It looks like it's actually replacing GIMP with the other one. So we're going to let that finish before we make presumptions about that. Internet, we have Firefox, HexChat, Thunderbird, Transmission. We have our full LibreOffice suite, and we have, this is the GNOME calendar. And by the way, if you, the adjustments have been made inside of the GNOME shell here, where if you log in with even a Nextcloud account, a Google account, Microsoft account, it will sync your GNOME calendar with your online cloud account. Totally awesome if you happen to use those features, particularly since it also now works with Nextcloud. The previous version of that would not work with. It would only sync your files. It actually wouldn't even sync your files. It would just give you an application on your file manager. So here's GIMP 2.10 now, which if you've not explored GIMP 2.10, it is such an improvement over the old version. extra tools. Some of the tools are working, just some extra features. More support for people who do drawing, things like that. Lots more support. And if I'm not mistaken, that should have kept them both in there. So this one is the 2. This one is the 2.8. This is the 2.10. What you'd want to do is figure out which one's which and just uninstall the one you don't need. All right, but you do have the option for that. Sound and video, we have Rhythm Box, Media Player, and here if you need extra multimedia codecs, there's a link right here to install the multimedia codecs. I thought it asks you if you wanted to install those on the download, but it might not install all of them. So there it's just downloading packages, and we'll let that do its thing. Everything else, we have the backup tool like usual. The backup tool and the time shift tool are different. Somebody called me on that before. Let me make sure I get it right. I always call it by the one in Apple. I don't use either one, so I can't keep... Okay, this one's time shift here. The Apple, I think, is time machine. So this one's time shift. So the time shift will basically make a backup of your system files, not necessarily your personal files, versus the backup will make a backup of your personal files. Now the backup tool still does not out of the box support network. I do have a video on how you can make it work with a network. It basically just involves adding an fstab file to it. I'll go ahead and link that video in how to do that. As far as everything else, most of the rest here, if you are used to Linux Mint Cinnamon, it's going to be much the same. Is there a real good reason to fully upgrade? I don't know yet. On a new install, I would absolutely put this on. There's been some talk about Qt applications, whether they are going to work well or not. So one of the things that I did is I installed VirtualBox. Just have a look because this is Qt, and it does appear to have the same theming. So let me think, what's another Qt application? I guess actually another one might be anything from KDE. So let's look at K address book. Let's go ahead and install K address book. Let's see what this looks like. So there was some discussion about do Qt applications look the same, because there's something, and I don't follow all that kind of stuff. Okay, this is the case where it can't download the information because it's still pointed to the Linux Mint one. So we're just going to change the repos. Okay, so here's the K address book. You'll see it is themed as the same UDK. Now we can't run it without the personal services here. There's actually a note about that. If you are using a lot of your KDE applications, you might need to install something else. Let me look at also Kmail. All right, so again, here's Kmail. So everything does seem to be working just fine. So I wouldn't be quite as worried about that. All right, other things. Pretty much everything else is going to be about the same. So is this something that we should necessarily update to right away? I'm probably going to give it about a month or so, and after that, I will upgrade my Linux Mint laptop to that, which I would always do before I'd update my video production machine here. So I will be doing that. I'm going to give it some time, just make sure there's no major bugs. I want to see if we can figure out what's wrong with that host script, because I definitely want the host script to be working on that computer since it's a laptop. The ones in my office, I don't care as much because the script is actually on my router, so anything in my network is automatically protected anyway. So that's kind of my thought on this. Should you upgrade to it? Not right away. If you have a new device and you want to install this, absolutely, it's going to be worth it. I think that this is probably going to have enough improvements over Linux Mint 18, but still, Linux Mint 18.3 is still very good. I'm still curious how the Nemo stuff's going to work out. The biggest take homes, if you happen to use cloud type services, 19 is going to support all of your cloud stuff, from calendar syncing, email syncing, file syncing, things like that. It's going to support those a lot better than 18.3 will. It's going to have some of the latest packages like LibreOffice and GIMP are the two big ones that I use with the latest. Also Kdenlive. Those are all the latest upgrades here without necessarily having to use Flatpaks, because I'm not a big fan of the Flatpaks, the app images and the snaps. I think it's a wrong direction to move personally. And you can disagree with me on that, but I just kind of like keeping things in repos. But with those, I have GIMP 2.10 and LibreOffice 6 on my Linux Mint 18 machine. I don't really use cloud services to sync things. Really, I use it as I use my personal cloud service through Nextcloud simply as a way to store some things, write, and collaborate. Essentially the same things I'd use Google Docs for. I just use those. So upgrade, kind of iffy, on the fence. New install, absolutely I'd go for this, particularly if you need that latest software and the cloud infrastructure working better. This one just works very well. I haven't noted any other major issues other than that blocking script, so it makes me wonder, why is something core in Ubuntu 18.04 not accepting some changes to the host file? That's really weird to me. And it's way better for those like, use an extension. No, don't use an extension. Number one, a lot of the extensions that are out there are fraudulent malware. Number two, an extension will only protect your browser, but there are codes, JavaScript, and other stuff can, even on the internet, reach outside your browser to do things. But you block it on the host level, it's dead everywhere on your system. And so those are really good reasons to use a host file instead of a plugin. But as far as installing this, I think it's worth it. I'm not going to upgrade for at least a month. I also want to see what's going on with that Linux Mint update server. I want to see that come back online as well. I prefer to use those rather than other places when I can. It's just curious to me. Like I said, my guess is it's down just because there's too many server requests on it. So this is great. Check it out. Of course, the Mate and the XFCE are also out. If you want me to, I'll go ahead and install and review those ones as well. But I just want to get this out so you guys can see and realize the official 19 is released. So thanks for watching. You can help support the channel by checking out the main page at switchtolinux.com/support. It lists all the ways you can help support us. Don't forget to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/TomM. There are some patron updates over there, and some of the old live streams go up there as well after I have edited some of the videos out. And you can pick up a t-shirt, coffee cup, or things like that. Like I do have nice stainless steel coffee cups here at shop.switchtolinux.com. So thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Switched to Linux. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links at the top. There is another video over here. You can check out our Patreon page down here. And you can check out shop.switchtolinux.com for information on a t-shirt like this or some other designs. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.